Hi, I'm Johnny Walker, Pinellas Beekeepers Association. I am the president, and I'm going to do a simple little video on assembling a frame for a wax foundation. So instead of grooved, like you would put plastic cell in, you need a wedge bar type. And I'll show you exactly what that means. So with an X-Acto knife, there's a groove in here. All you got to do is split this out without splitting your hand out. This little bar comes out. You want to make sure you get all this little bit of wood shavings cleaned up out of there. It just makes it easier to put the frame back in. I also take the knife and trim up this little bit of shagginess that I have here. So you end up with a little bitty thin wedge and a bar with a piece missing out of it. If you try to put the plastic cell in this, it would fall out because there's nowhere for it to go. It would fall off to one side. So you start out with that, you've separated that. You have your typical wedged bottom. That doesn't change, that stays the same. The top, the side, the end bars changes. On this end bar, I will insert these brass rings. I'll show you what that's for when I get the frame done. There's little brass eyelets in these holes. So when you get a wedge bar, you should have holes in your end bars. There's 4 of them on a high body. I think 2 of them on a honey super. So what you do here is you get these little brass inserts. They're really hard to see. My big fat fingers cover them up. So you just go through and you take this little tool that holds them in place and you hammer them in place. It's great for getting rid of frustration. Now these frames take a little longer to assemble. The bees work them really well, and I enjoy doing this. I've done it quite a few times over the years. Like I said, you have 4 per hive, or 4 per frame. And then it assembles a whole lot like the other frame. We're going to set a wedge out of the way. I'll put this over here. We're going to get it back together. We're going to glue. We're going to make sure these brass eyelets are on the outside, facing out. So we'll put our glue in here. Glue, 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 glue. A little more glue, a little more glue, a little more glue. If you do not glue them, it will fall apart. I promise you. There's just something about wedging them bees in and out of them little, all waxed in there. They'll be so tough and tight, you can't pry them out. At first it won't be bad. With your new hive and your new wood wares, everything's really slick and nice. Stick these in there, make sure the brass eyelets go to the outside. Brass side out. A little bit of glue on the edges here. More glue on the edges. The groove must go inwards, facing the other part of the frame. Set this out of the way. I'll wipe off my little extra off my little fingers. Get my tack hammer, which makes it much easier. One portion done. They recommend 2 nails per corner on these. Like I said earlier, if you have a pneumatic stapler, inhaler. You can definitely use them. You don't have to go out and buy one just to do this. I only put one in the top because I put several other in other ways to lock it in. And I will show you what I do to lock it. Put one nail down from the top. Most instructions will tell you 2. But the reason I do 1 is because I lay it down like this and I put one straight through the side into the top bar. And I know when I do that, I lock that in. Flip it over and do it again. Like I said, I'm pinning this in from the sides. And I strongly recommend glue. If you do not glue them, they will pull apart, even with nails, even with staples. And then stand it up and put one in this angle over here on the side from the end. You will get a much better job. I will tell you, the bees don't care, but you will care later on when your equipment's holding up and standing up through years of service. Started with my fat little fingers. And I'm not so good at it sometimes. That nail doesn't like me, I'm going to try another one. See if I can get this started any better. Notice I'm driving it at an angle. Get it in there good and tight. It will be right. If there's any glue dripping or running around, please wipe it off. Your bees aren't impressed with that. The next part of this is why you put the brass rings in it. This is why. And this is a little time consuming, so it's not a quick fix, but nothing in beekeeping is really a quick fix. I do not use a set of cutters to cut the wire. I flex it and break it. The reason I do that is if you cut it and the edge of it's in the hive, it's very sharp and it will continue to poke the bees. And they have little exoskeletons, and I'm assure you they will not like it. So you just zigzag this back and forth, back and forth. Start at the top, you can start at the bottom, and I just loop it back and forth. I gotta pull a little more wire to get it on in there. Pull a little more wire the other way. Back out for the third length. I know there's a lot of work. You can buy them assembled. I will take another nail here and drive it in the side of the frame. About halfway down. I will come back. I will wrap the wire about 3 times around the little nail. I'll take the nail and set it flush. Then I'll take, where I said don't cut the wire, flex the wire back and forth 5, 6 times. It breaks off. Look, you can run your finger over it. No pokies, no owies. It will poke you, it will poke the bees. It may even kill your bees as they're crawling around, running into it in the dark. Now the big deal with this is you can't have this old flop chicken wire flipping around. You're not helping yourself. You're not doing good. So you got to start it out, and you tighten it up, and you tighten it up, and you're trying to get these wires taut. And these wires are a little bit on the rusty side, so I'm hoping they don't break up bad on me. Now you're not looking for a real fancy note, but you are looking for some tautness. You just pull them a little each time. Pull it, and pull it. Now, you need to take another nail and do the same thing on the same end. That's where the wire ends up. About halfway down, we've got this all tweaked and tight. I'll tighten it again. You will break a few wires if you do this, and you'll redo it, but you'll learn. Bend it up to the edge, come right over the edge, wrap it 3 times around the nail. And hit in 4, I don't know. Take the little wire, break it off. So we've got the wire in there. And we're going to take a piece of wax foundation with hooks. The hook part is right here on the wire. This little bit sticks out. There's little wires through there. You can see them in the light. And there's little hooks that stick up across the top. I will drop these in here, but I will zigzag them down through the wires to hold them in place. This is a little tricky and a little patient. You're dealing with thin wax. I would get it down and drop it into the groove in the bottom. Push it into place in the top where that groove goes. Now's the fun part. The little wedge we took out earlier, it will drop in place. But you have one problem with it. You have to cut the very end of it off just a tad, or it will like expand and cause you a problem. So it needs to be a little less thin. You put it in there and you wedge it against the wax, and you take some nails. I have a little bit shorter nails so they won't go through the top. 3 or 4 are fine. I'm going to cheat for a second. I always like doing this. I have this box with a groove in it. And it makes it really easy for me to one nail. I don't get crazy with this. The stick will hold it in there with just a few nails. So I put one in the center and one off to both sides. If I do fingers to work. Now you assemble the frame with crossed wires and all. This is very strange. You can even extract this in a honey extractor with a wedge at the very top, nailed in with 3 nails, side nailed, top nailed, in nailed, right there, nailed and glued in the bottom with wax foundation. The bees will hit this and really go to running with it. It does a nice job. It's just a different way of assembling it. So that is how you install a wedge bar wax frame and assemble. Thank you and good night. It's starting to smell good.